Hi everyone, I'm Julie, and this is Cooking from the Heart with Julie. Today we're going to be making carne con papas, and that translates into Cuban beef stew. It's a very savory, delicious dish that's simple to make. The ingredients for this recipe are as follows. We need 1 small diced onion, 1 small diced green pepper, 2 Roma or plum tomatoes chopped. We need about 2 to 3 minced garlic cloves. We need about 10 to 13 green olives with red pimentos. We're going to need some dry red cooking wine, about 2 cups of beef stock, 2 peeled and chopped white potatoes, about 2-inch pieces should be good. We need, for this recipe, about half a can of tomato sauce, 2 to 3 tablespoons of olive oil. The dry seasonings are going to be 1 teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of oregano, 1/4 teaspoon of cumin, and 1 large bay leaf. These are really small, so I went ahead and used 2 or 3. And of course, our stew meat. Look how pretty that is. That's about 1.5 pounds or so of stew meat, cut into about, I would say, 2-inch pieces as well, similar to the potatoes. And any stew meat should work fine with this recipe. We're going to go ahead and add our meat into the pressure cooker. Now guys, we want to make sure to pat our meat dry as much as possible. We don't want it to be too moist. Okay, and make sure you trim off any excess fat. I leave just very little of fat on there. And then we're going to go ahead, after we pat it dry and add it to our pot, our pressure cooker, we're going to put in the olive oil. So I would say 2 to 3 tablespoons of olive oil. We're going to put our heat on to medium-high. All right, so we put the meat and the oil, no salt or seasoning at this point. We're going to go ahead and add our onion, our green pepper, and our tomato. We're going to put that all in here. Okay, put this plate on the side. I hope everybody's staying safe and doing well. This is one of the most typical Cuban dishes there is. Very popular, very typical, very authentic Cuban. So remember, we're going to keep our heat to medium high to high, closer to the high end, because we want to go ahead and try not to let this get too watery. So we want a pretty high heat. So once we do that, we're going to let that brown a little bit. So we're not adding any seasoning at this point. So just go ahead and give it a mix every now and again until you start seeing it get a little bit of color and the meat browning a little bit. And then I'll be right back. So you see, guys, we just go ahead and mix it every once in a while. Ooh, look at that steam. It already smells really good. So we just keep giving this a whirl every so often. We're trying to dry up any liquid and brown the meat. So guys, we're waiting for the excess liquid and juice to dry up, and we're stirring it as we go. So at this point, before it dries out completely, we're going to go ahead and add our dry seasonings. So here goes the half a teaspoon of oregano, 1/4 teaspoon of cumin, and our 1 teaspoon of salt. So we want to wait for it to start browning just a little bit before we add the salt, because if we add it too soon, it'll make the liquid come out of the meat and it's not going to brown as easy. We're also going to go ahead and just stir this so all the seasonings meld and mix. Give it a good mix. Make sure all those seasonings disperse properly onto the meat. So the meat that I'm using today is actually sirloin. I buy the whole bowl of meat, so to speak, at my butcher, and I have them cut it up into different pieces. So, you know, I'll get steak out of it, I'll get some stew meat, I'll get some ground beef, and so forth. Okay. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and add our garlic. We always leave the garlic for last because we don't want it to scorch. If it scorches or gets toasty, what happens is that turns it very bitter. And it's a very icky taste. It ruins the dish. If garlic gets burnt, very strong taste, very bitter. So we always leave it for last. Okay. So we're gonna lower our heat a little bit. It's already starting to brown. We don't want it to stick. So I'm gonna put it now on medium. And just keep our eye on it. So you see how most of the liquid is dried up, the excess liquid. We don't want it completely dry, but you see there's no pooling of liquid. That's when we know. Let me go ahead and raise the heat. I lowered it a little bit so it wouldn't steam the camera too much. So now we're gonna go ahead, once it gets to this point, we're gonna go ahead and add our dry cooking wine. I would say about 1/4 cup. Oh, nice. So that's gonna pick up all of those flavors from the onion, the garlic, the pepper, the tomato, the dry seasonings. So we're gonna let the alcohol burn off of that for a minute. Okay, and once we let that alcohol burn off for about a minute or so. Look at that steam, it smells so good. Now we're gonna go ahead and add our tomato sauce. The measurements I'm giving you are for about 4 servings. So I'm only going to use half a can of the tomato sauce. Delish. So we mix that and integrate it all well. You can go ahead and add the bay leaf at this point. Delicious. Look how pretty this is looking. Now guys, you can use, like I said, any stew meat. So stew meat, for the most part, is usually lean. So this dish, aside from the potatoes we're going to add, it's really not a very high fat or high calorie dish. Because we use just some olive oil, trimmed off. Make sure that the meat is trimmed of any excess fat. You can leave very little. We don't need too much, if at all. But I always like to leave just a little bit. But I do have the butcher trim most of it. Okay, so we're on medium heat. Tomato sauce is in. All the flavors are incorporated, melding together. Delish. Now we're gonna go ahead and add our chicken stock, or our beef stock rather. So this is 2 cups. I'm not big on measuring. I never cook measuring stuff. I pretty much do it all by sight, eyeball it, and by taste. So let's see if 2 cups. 2 cups is good. Alrighty. Alright, so we mix that all together. At this point, let me grab a spoon so we can have a taste. So let's see. At this point, we want to taste it and see if it needs any additional seasoning. That's good. So now we're gonna go ahead, put it on the pressure cooker, and we're gonna give it about since I'm using sirloin and the meat isn't very tough, it's actually tender, I'm only going to give it about, I would say 15 minutes. So once it starts, I have an old-fashioned pressure cooker where it has the little knob on top that hisses and makes sound once it does get pressure. So once it starts making that sound, I'm going to turn it down and to about low medium. And then I'm going to start counting down 15 minutes. I'm going to give it 15 minutes because I don't want the meat to fall apart completely. So after I added the 2 cups of beef stock and the bay leaf and all that, so you can see what it looks like. So we're going to put it in the pressure cooker. So the meat has to be almost completely covered with liquid when you're going to use a pressure cooker. So that's what it looks like. So let's cover it up and I'll be back in 15 minutes. So I went ahead, the pressure cooker finished. I made sure all the pressure was released before opening it. Okay, what I did have to do, let me show you guys. Let me get the camera. So when I opened it, it had a little too little bit of water, actually. So I went ahead, I just want to show you guys. I went ahead, can you see there? Okay. I went ahead and added some water. So this is how much more or less we're going to want. We don't want it completely covered, but a little bit, because now we're going to add the potatoes. So since we're going to add the potatoes, I want to go ahead and make sure that it has some liquid. Okay, my loves. So once you, the potatoes get tender and the sauce reduces a little bit, you serve it on a plate, and here is the final product. So this is our final product, guys. Look at that. It is absolutely fork tender. You don't even need a knife. Served with a little side of white rice with some parsley on it, and of course, a glass of red wine. That's my Merlot. See how delicious this looks? I don't know how the lighting is, but look at that. That's your final product right there. So as you can see, it's fairly easy. Oh, this light is too harsh. Let me turn it off. So that's all there is to it, guys. It's pretty simple. It's not too complicated. Just follow the steps. I served it with the white rice, as you can see, but to make it healthier, you can, just serve yourself the meat and not the potatoes if you're on low carb, or just serve yourself, one small piece of potato or 2. And instead of serving it with white rice, you can go ahead and have a side of quinoa. You can also serve it just with salad and, have just the meat, or the meat and some potatoes. So you can go ahead and, alter it a little bit, or not even the main dish, alter the side dishes so that you can make it a healthier option for you. It's really the side, because the stew itself, the Cuban stew, really is pretty healthy. It's low fat. You saw we only used a little bit of olive oil. The meat was a lean cut of meat. I didn't leave a lot of fat on the meat itself. So really, just because we're using the pressure cooker and we're braising it before, there really is no need for any additional oil, or a lot of additional oil, just the olive oil. And that's it. I mean, it's delicious, it's healthy, it's hearty, and if you serve it with a big salad on the side, maybe just have a piece of potato or 2, it's a healthy dish. It's all on how you prepare it and what the sides are. So I hope you enjoyed it, and if you liked what you saw and you liked my recipe, please don't forget to hit subscribe and hit the notification bell. Once you hit subscribe, the little bell that comes out next to the subscribe word, you can give it a like if you liked my video, and comment. Give me your comments, your ideas, your suggestions, and your opinions. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you soon with a next dish. Stay safe.